Howdy guys, this is Team Player Gaming, and today I have another lore video for you. Today I'm going to be talking about the Kalijae Elves of the Mwangi Expanse. This is the largest group of elves that were once part of the Kalijae Elf Society. These elves believed that the ancient evil that was prophesied by the Kalijae Elves could come from the elves themselves. Because elves can live so long, they believed that this could lead to a sense of superiority. They considered that this might lead them to the path of evil, because they would no longer recognize it as evil. They had seen this happen in other residents of the Mwangi Expanse, and realized they were just as corruptible as anyone else. After they left the Kalijae Elves, their numbers began to dwindle because of the nature of the evil that they oppose. If you played through enough of Age of Ashes, you know about the Charaka. These monkey-like people are the main enemies of the Kalijae. The history of the Kalijae begins with a lofty but grim promise. When they left the Kalijae Elves, they decided not only to fight the ills of the world like the Kalijae do, but also to recognize it in themselves so they wouldn't fall prey to it. To that end, they decided to settle on the islands near Usaro. There were two main reasons for this. The first is that they would always have a constant reminder of their potential fate through Agazan and his cruel Charaka minions. The second reason is that they could actively combat this evil as well. The first thing that the Kalijae did was to create a moving base of operations they called the First Stand. This is where they train not only to understand themselves, but also to combat the evils they face. Thus began a war of attrition that continues to this day. The Kalijae use guerrilla tactics to face their enemies, while those enemies tend to use full frontal attacks. Most battles occur at the First Stand, wherever it happens to be at the time. The base has been destroyed and rebuilt so many times that most Kalijae now keep very little material possessions. However, the elves were eventually driven back and forced to settle on a mist-shrouded island they deemed Haven. Upon building a settlement there, they found many pools of water that were excellent foci for meditation. The Kalijae used these pools to better understand themselves and gather the energy to steel themselves for their fight against evil. Despite the continued destruction of their settlements, most Kalijae elves continue to hone their minds and bodies against the threats they face. That has, however, backfired for some Kalijae elves. Those elves have been drawn to the very evil that they seek to hold back. To the Kalijae, these incidents are seen as just further proof that they are just as corruptible as anyone else. Kalijae elves tend to have dark skin and long, densely coiled hair. Although the Kalijae do wear gems that they use for meditation, they generally shun other types of expensive equipment. There are exceptions to this, such as items that will help them in their fight against evil, but they generally see jewelry and other such trinkets as invitations to be consumed by avarice, or the target of one already in its clutches. The most visible concession to vanity that is seen in the Kalijae is their hair. However, it is more functional than it seems. Because the Kalijae may have to travel quickly at any time, most of their possessions are worn in their hair. These are usually family heirlooms and other items that would have little value to anyone other than their owners. This means that their hair must be grown extremely long to allow for more to be held inside the hair. In order to be a part of Kalijae society, one must adhere to strict rules and regulations. First of all, one must keep themselves pure, which is a concept that is often misunderstood. This means no non-communal material wealth, no jealousy, no vanity, and nothing that would distract from one's duty and purpose. This requires daily meditation, academic study, and a balanced diet of food. Those Kalijae that have mastered themselves the best come together to form a council of 6, which governs their society. They make the laws and lead the troops into battle against their enemies. This council does not have a formal name, as the Kalijae believe that titles and prestige are just another way that they may fall down a dark path. However, all Kalijae do respect the council for their wisdom and authority, as the ones that most embody what it means to be Kalijae. However, the council is not perfect. Should the vote ever come to a tie, the bylaws state that the decision must be made by the youngest acolyte with the ability to understand the choice at hand. The elves believe that while wisdom comes with age and effort, youth and naivety can hold a clarity that can reveal paths that have been obscured, and when age fails to make a decision, youth must provide insights. The Kalijae Elves worship no gods. They believe that the gods are just as corruptible as any mortal. Like mortals, they experience fear, hate, jealousy, etc. All the emotions that make one susceptible to evil. Instead, they elevate those who have shown exceptional mastery of the Kalijae way of life. They call these individuals the Untitled. These are usually living elders who have become mentors to the younger generations, but anyone can be elevated to this status as long as they show the aptitude for it. The Kalijae are extremely careful not to elevate anyone to godlike status though, as this has the same pitfalls as actually worshipping gods. However, even with all their precautions, some Kalijae do fall into this trap and form cults that persist on the outskirts of their society. Kalijae believe that their bodies are parts forming a whole: mind, eyes, mouth, heart, hands, core, and feet. Periodically, every Kalijae elf must go through a ritual called the unburdening. Outsiders generally describe it as a prayer in a different form, though not directed at any divine being. They also describe the Kalijae concept of mind and heart as akin to their soul, but the Kalijae say that this is inaccurate and that the mind and heart are not separate from the rest of the body. All parts must be faithfully tended to form a functional whole, and they are all necessary. The Kalijae Elves have many goals in their society. They strive to understand the nature of evil, identify it within themselves, and suppress or eliminate it in themselves and others. This takes on many forms. The most common ones are meditation, the unburdening, reflection toward oral tradition, and vigilance. The Kalijae have many ways to meditate and self-reflect. Some are pretty basic, like you would expect from meditation. Others use outside forces to help bolster the effort, such as foci gems and the pools of haven. Still others rely on primal magic to help enhance the effects of meditation, such as the unburdening. The various methods of meditation are one of the few things that the Kalijae are willing to share with others to help lessen the spread of evil beyond where they have settled. The unburdening can be performed in the pools of haven as originally intended, but those that cannot make the journey can perform it in any freshwater or spring-fed pool. In order to be most effective, there are 3 steps that must be followed. First, one must reflect on what each part being cleansed has done to acknowledge what has been done between this unburdening and the last. The second step is to assist these deeds and forgive any regrets while also reveling in any that bring joy. Finally, the memories are kept close and any lessons to be learned are kept even closer. The last part washed during this ritual is always the hair and scalp. This ritual is usually done after long journeys or once a year on the elf's birthday. Unlike the Kalijae, the Kalijae elves do not write everything down. No, their information is given orally. Because the elves have to move around so much, it doesn't make sense to write their stories down. While books and buildings can crumble, the spoken word continues as long as someone is willing to listen. It may seem like the stories would change as they are passed from person to person, but this is not the case. Kalijae historians seem to have an almost supernatural memory when it comes to these stories. When Kalijae elves come of age, they must journey out into the world. This journey is known as the Crucible of the Heart. This is meant to test their will and resolve against what the world has to offer. The Kalijae mainly focus on the threat of Angazan and his minions, but other evils exist in the world, so those on a journey can focus on them as well. When the young elves leave, they take nothing other than their clothes and knowledge. During this journey, they must earn everything for themselves, including food and shelter. Many that are on this journey only go to the farthest reaches of the Mwangi Expanse. These journeys are more like apprenticeships than journeys of introspection. The elves on this journey seek new techniques and to find out who in the Mwangi Expanse are their enemies and who are their allies. Others find themselves in other lands. Those are the ones who wish to become adventurers and bring back their stories so that they may be told orally to their fellow elves. Kalijae half-elves are known as Umanyano. To full elves and significantly older Kalijae, they often seem like the only way of understanding the rapidly changing world. Kalijae half-elves must go through the Crucible of the Heart in 2 phases. First, they must spend time with the Kalijae Elves, because most Kalijae believe that the Kalijae drown themselves in power, thus the half-elves must resist these temptations. After that, the half-elves go through the rest of the Crucible of the Heart as a normal full Collegiate Elf would, journeying to find themselves and bring back reconnaissance. Most outsiders find the Kalijae strange but also trustworthy. Most adventuring parties in the Mwangi Expanse welcome a Collegiate Elf into their ranks as an anchoring force. Those outside the Expanse are curious and bewildered by them. The Kalijae belief in the fallibility of gods attracts questions from the more religious societies. They have very little resentment toward these societies and little interest in debating them, so they tend to be accepted by all but the most militant of these societies. However, they also find atheism to be distasteful, which can lead to disappointments in meetings with other societies. The Kalijae tend to be distrustful of everyone, watching and waiting for a descent into evil. They don't think that all outsiders are evil, though. They just believe that the world is full of unchecked corruption. They believe that the Kalijae are steeped in it from their otherworldly deals, and the Ekojae skirt it with their self-adornments. They may believe this about other societies, but they also believe that no single individual is beyond saving. Haven is one of the largest Kalijae settlements, but there are other places that the elves call home. The only one that rivals it in size is Bear Nibby, where the Kalijae elves are trained. Most of the settlements are relatively small and more like camps that the elves can use when fighting the evil that calls their islands home. Most of these other settlements remain empty and unused, and are little more than places for a few people to eat and meditate. The island where Haven is situated was discovered largely by accident. A harrying party of the elves was in full retreat and stumbled onto the island. They were quickly lost in the fog that radiates from the lake. This fog allowed them to tend to their wounds in safety, but it also meant that they couldn't see anyone approach. Once again, using the cover of the fog, the party found others of their kind and reported their findings. Thus, Haven began. It was built as a place for retreat and the recuperation of the injured. As the foremost base of the Kalijae is known as the First Stand, Haven is sometimes called the Last Stand. With the discovery of meditation pools, Haven was built as one of the few places that outsiders are allowed inside, and one of the most heavily fortified. Like most Kalijae outposts, Haven is built around defense. Non-essential buildings make up the outermost structures, built with dense walls and barriers between each. This allows the elves to build defenses quickly while also securing goods and non-combatants in times of distress. These buildings are under constant repair and patrol, so no one slips in or out unnoticed. The buildings in this area are mostly used for the storage of weapons, food, and goods that are only useful for trading. Beyond the outer edge of the city are homes, clothing storage, training areas, and open-air spaces. These buildings are not as packed together as the ones in the outermost area, but they are still fortified just in case. In the heart of Haven are the healing and recuperation areas. They have been built in a way that, as a last resort, the elves can retreat into the caves below, or teleport away if there are any magic users present. Bear Nibby is a training ground for the Kalijae Elves. However, rather than place it somewhere on their islands, they decided that the journey to the training grounds would be a part of the training to become a full Kalijae Elf. So they placed it in the precarious Bandu Hills and never speak of it to outsiders. This is where young elves learn everything they need to know to fight the forces of evil, from the basics of dressing wounds, to meditation techniques, to hand-to-hand combat. They are then trained in whatever more advanced skills suit their abilities. In the event that a trainee shows promise in magic that no Kalijae Elf master teaches, the masters gather and decide the best course of action. Bear Nibby is built for defense, but there are a few key differences in how the defense is laid out. First of all the patrols are done by current students instead of the more experienced Kalijae. This allows students to learn the patrol routes while they are studying. Second, the defense of Bear Nibby is built to take greater advantage of the hills and peaks that are around. While most Kalijae structures are only 3 stories tall, the watchtowers at Bear Nibby can be twice as high. It is no secret that many of the students volunteer for watchtower duty just for the view. Some students even challenge each other to races up the stairs, and some will even spend the night at the top on a dare. The final difference between Bernibi and other Kalijae settlements is its permanence. Most Kalijae structures are built so that they can be taken down in a hurry. However, Bernibi is built from stone with reinforced mortar. These walls have never been tested in combat, but they have withstood the test of time and have never been rebuilt. Because of this, the plants in the area that grow over the walls have become a decoration in their own right. Collegiate guardians say that they encourage these plants to grow in ways that will strengthen their defenses, but observers have noticed that the care that these plants receive is almost artful. Just like in my Kalijae Elf video, I'm going to give the Kalijae Elves a ranking on teamwork out of 10. I give the Kalijae Elves a 7 out of 10 on teamwork. Since they use guerrilla tactics for their war against evil, teamwork is essential to their society, especially since their enemies tend to use full frontal attacks. However, this is also difficult to do. Because they have to move around so much, it can be difficult to get back together. Most of the Kalijae Elves' time is either spent in battle or rebuilding their settlements. Overall, I would say teamwork is vital to their society because of the enemy they're facing. Using guerrilla tactics against an enemy that uses full frontal attacks can be difficult. And that's going to wrap up this video. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like this, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out my Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon page. Links are in the description. If you want to see more teamwork-related Pathfinder 2e content, you can check out these videos here. So until next time, teamwork is vital.